Hi, my name's Kelly Howard, and this is...
I am also Kelly, but not Howard. I'm Kelly Shores.
And I'm the product lead here at Udacity for a few of our programs, including the Introduction to Programming Nanodegree program. And so today we thought we would just give you a little bit more information about what this program is, who it's for, and what it will get you. And then we'll open it up to some questions to see if we can help clarify what our program offering is. Cool. So
That's great.
Cool. So IP&D is kind of our internal name, but that stands for Intro to Programming Nanodegree. So I guess to really start and step back, what is Udacity?
What is Udacity?
So currently we're here at Udacity headquarters in Mountain View, and we are an online education platform. All of our programs, we have nanodegree programs that teach in-demand skills for jobs within tech and tech-adjacent roles. We also have industry partnerships that help fuel our content within our programs, as well as our hiring partners.
Yep. So we work with them to actually hire students into future careers, get new promotions, etc. So those companies are companies such as Google, NVIDIA, Mercedes-Benz, Lyft, etc.
So our nanodegrees are essentially collections of courses and lessons that build up to make you job ready in some field. So whether our front-end nanodegree program, back-end data analyst, all of these programs will make you job ready. Our Introduction to Programming nanodegree program is a little bit different. It's actually going to provide you all of the skills and prerequisites so that you are ready for one of these career-ready nanodegree programs. So the curriculum in IP&D really focuses on bringing you up to speed on general programming mindset and methods so that when you jump into some of our more advanced career-ready programs, you'll be ready for it. So the program starts with Learn to Code, which is a really high-level view of how the web works, a little bit about HTML and CSS, which are the languages of web pages. You'll build your own web page from scratch, which is pretty cool.
That's exciting.
And you'll learn how to style it, make it custom colors, put in images, videos, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then we'll dive into learning what programming is using Python. So we picked Python because it's a really accessible, easy language to start with. It's really straightforward. It kind of flows off the tongue, kind of like English, so it's really nice in that way. So we have a project called Code Your Own Quiz, where you will essentially make a Mad Libs generator, and you'll have to solve what each of the blanks are.
Cool. I think I've seen some of those examples in our Made with Udacity hashtag, where students share the projects that they work in throughout their nanodegree programs. So that's exciting to see those first quizzes and projects come to life.
And then we also get into object-oriented programming, also with Python. And through that course and project, you'll end up creating a movie website. So you'll use Python to generate a website that shows a bunch of movies and will play their trailers and that type of thing. So that's pretty cool. At the very end of IP&D, we allow students to kind of choose their own adventure. So essentially, they'll get to choose one of the different learning paths, like front-end, back-end, data analysis, or iOS or Android development. And we have them take the first couple of lessons from those nanodegree programs and submit one of the final projects as like their capstone.
Cool. Okay, so then that's kind of whatever their interest is in that final project, we recommend they go into those programs. So if you really loved Python and Intro to Programming nanodegree program, you should go into
probably back-end or a data analyst.
Okay.
Yeah. And so with that, the students will get to actually submit one of those projects that's in one of the nanodegree programs. And so if you do enroll in one of those future programs, you'll already have credit for that project. So that's pretty cool. So this slide is basically showing what those projects are, just the names of them.
And all of our nanodegree programs are built around these projects where you get real-world experience creating, whether it's a website that's a movie quiz or an app when you move on to, like, say, Android development, whatever it is. We're building out a portfolio that you can later show to employers or the larger programming community, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So throughout the program, you'll have video instruction and text and quizzes and that kind of thing. But what really makes Udacity's programs a little bit different is that you do have this, like, you submit a project file, and we have reviewers that will review and give you code review, actually line by line code review, which is really cool. You'll really get a good idea on like best practices and that kind of thing directly on the work that you're doing. So it's a really quick way to see and level up your skills.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. So a lot of people ask what the requirements are for Introduction to Programming. Actually, there really aren't too many requirements. It's pretty cool.
Nice. I like hearing that.
Right. So honestly, basic computer skills. That kind of that includes like downloading programs onto your computer. Zipping files, file organization on your computer. I know that, like, for me, for example, I have like tons of files and things all over my desktop on my computer.
Same.
But
we're not gonna look at this.
Knowing how to organize those and seeing where your files are on the computer is a useful skill. You also do need a computer that's either a Mac, Windows, or running Linux.
Okay.
And then as far as programming experience, you actually don't need any. That's like the whole point of the program, is to provide you with that programming experience as like the stepping stone.
So you don't even need to have used HTML in your like old MySpace profile.
Yeah,
or anything.
I mean that's a great advantage, but yeah, no, you don't have to have any of those skills. We'll take you from actually ground zero all the way up through having some familiarity with programming.
Great.
So yeah, what will you learn? So the main languages that we use to teach the programming mindset are HTML, CSS, and Python. Okay. The reason we start out with HTML and CSS is to actually give students a really tangible visual of what you can do by writing a few lines of code using some language with some syntax and seeing a result immediately. Okay. So HTML and CSS are the building blocks of websites. So that's a really tangible result for students to start out with.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. I'm actually going to include that quote in our Facebook live chat right now.
And then we also use Python for our programming language of choice. It's very popular. It's very heavily used in most big tech companies right now. And it's really accessible. There aren't a lot of exceptions and idiosyncrasies like some other languages out there. And so it's a really great learning language.
Because I know that's a question that people always have, like, if I want to get into programming, I don't work in programming at all, where should I start?
Right.
So HTML, CSS, Python.
Yeah, I mean, those are great. I love so many other languages as well. I love JavaScript, I love Ruby. There's really a ton of languages out there, but honestly, as long as you start with one and really understand how programming works, and just the programmer's mindset, the logic, just general programming thinking, then whatever language you start with, you'll be able to apply that knowledge to whatever other language that you need to learn, which is really cool. Yeah. So general outcomes of the program, you'll be prepared to take any of those programs that we started with for this specialization, that final project. So you can jump into our front-end web developer nano degree. You can jump into back-end or full stack, as we call it now. And then any iOS or Android courses, Android Basics, and Data Analyst.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there specific, so say someone wants to, I don't know, what would be an option? Just focus on building like the database structure of a company's website. I know that that's further down the line in experience level, but would you then go into like back end?
Yeah. So our full stack nano degree right now, multiple namings for that one. But yeah, our full stack nano degree program would be really great for that. Okay. You learn SQL in there, which is one of the languages they use for databases. And so we actually, I don't actually have a slide for that. But within the back end path within IP&D, you will learn SQL. To start building your own databases.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
So I think we've gotten to the question portion. I'm here on Facebook seeing questions that you post in real time, so please feel free to send your questions in now, but we also have a few questions that people sent to us in advance on Facebook and our LinkedIn and Twitter profiles. So I will ask other Kelly these questions now. So we have one question that's, what kind of career backgrounds do Intro to Programming nanodegree students typically come from? It's probably all over, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, our students kind of come from all industries that you can imagine, honestly. We have folks that are like managers at their companies, folks that have studied science, they might be biologists, chemical engineers, all sorts of folks. We have educators, folks that are within the education space that might want to move into the tech field. And then we have tons of students. So students that are maybe in college currently or taking vocational classes, and they want additional ways to up their skill set as they're learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question we got was, which programming languages can students expect to study? But I think you pretty much covered that. So we have another question that sort of related that came in on Facebook. That's, what about Java? I know that that's kind of a language that people will get intimidated by from own friends that have taken Java courses in the past. Where does that come into play, I guess?
Yeah, so we don't teach Java at all in Intro to Programming. You'll find Java within our Android development nanodegree program. So if you're wanting to learn Java specifically for like Android development, where it's pretty common, then that's where you would go to take that.
Okay, great. I love Omina, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, question, because I relate as someone who wasn't great in math in high school. I flunked math in high school. Can I do this program?
Yes, definitely. So I have to be honest, like, depending on the type of like high schools and stuff, math isn't always taught in the most accessible way. And math really isn't a prerequisite to starting to learn how to program. With Introduction to Programming, we start with a really more holistic approach to figuring out how to go about logic, which is really what math comes down to. Is like knowing like what steps to execute and when, and what's happening during that process. And so if you don't have a really strong background in math, that shouldn't gate you from being able to jump into programming, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. I just did not. I remember geometry high school. Went over my head. It was not a great learning experience. But that also goes to some of the benefits of the Intro to Programming nanodegree program here at Udacity, is that you have this community built in when you start the program. There are other students. We've had how many graduates of the program now?
There's almost 3,000 graduates now. So
cool. And then they're all on Slack, which is a chat forum that we use where they can talk about projects that they're working on.
Yes, we actually, our Slack community, so most of our nanodegree programs use Slack as just a community chat with all of the students. And we have about 8,000 students in our IP&D Slack community right now, which is pretty cool.
Wait, what was that number again?
Like 8,000.
Wow.
It's like gotten really big.
From all over the world,
too. From all over the world. So all the time zones are covered. So I'm sure there will be someone up and online whatever time zone you're from. But we have channels within the Slack community that are dedicated to each part of the program. And so when students get stuck, they can work through the problems together. And it's really great. There's like the community is really supportive, regardless of what skill level and what background. Like everyone is so excited to like help each other out constantly.
Yeah. And it kind of the Udacity alumni network in general. Like they will have meetups even after they've graduated from, whether it's an beginner program like Intro to Programming, or if it's one of the more career-ready programs like, I don't know, our Artificial Intelligence nanodegree program. They really love just meeting up with us, meeting up with each other in whatever city they're in around the world. There's that really solid community for you out there too.
Yeah, and honestly, like our alumni network at Udacity is like 25,000 graduates right now, which is pretty giant. And so as a graduate from Introduction to Programming, you get this giant network of support to figure out, okay, if I want to do a career that is, through one of the nanodegree programs, there's so many people that have had that experience that are like more than happy to give advice and help out with those types of decisions. So it's pretty great.
Okay, I have another question. There's some great questions coming in from Facebook. One, this is from Tori. What are some good indicators front end or back end, which we call full stack now, is suitable for you? Like skills, personality traits, etc. How do you know if you're a front end developer versus full stack?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few aspects of both that could be good indicators. So front end developers are really looking at the user experience and how somebody will interact with a website. So they'll use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, another programming language, to work on the front end interaction space. JavaScript is a great language that will, like any of the interaction elements on any websites that you see, like buttons, forms, that kind of thing.
Anything
you'll be
like
using.
click now.
Yeah, exactly. So a front-end developer is really focused on making sure the front end of a website is set up to collect data for the back-end engineer. So the back-end engineer will be setting up the database, will be setting up what kind of objects are being stored there, and will be really like the behind-the-scenes person. So if it kind of depends, I guess that's a little bit on personality. If you're, you know, wanting to be upfront or, you know, kind of behind the scenes, I guess that would be one way to kind of describe those two roles.
One of our engineers, Jonathan Lau, he probably doesn't want me to say this, but he has told me that he loves front end because he also has an art background. So he also has worked in graphic design, so he loves being able to see immediately the actions that he's making in programming come to life on the website.
Totally. Yeah, and it really depends on like the size of the company that you work at. If you're at a really small company, as a front-end engineer, you're maybe going to do all sorts of skills that include doing the design and the UI. But at bigger companies, a front-end engineer might just be implementing the designs from the design team. So it kind of the role kind of varies based on the company and you know how everything is set up.
Yeah, probably all roles across programming world, right?
For sure.
Or technical roles.
Yeah.
I love this question from Nicholas because we hear this quite often just throughout Udacity, all of our different programs. I'm 45 and coming from a non-tech industry and want to make a career change to a developer. Is it too late?
It's definitely not too late. Never too late. Yeah, I think anybody can learn at any age what like the basics of programming and to just jump right in it. I was actually I had my dad check out some of our programming stuff, and he's been a pharmacist all of his life, so non-tech. And I think it's like really exciting to see folks that have had different careers and different backgrounds jump into something that's brand new. It's exciting, and I mean, as long as you're curious and you have the energy to just jump into something brand new, like you just go for it. I think it's a great opportunity.
And that speaks to our kind of Udacity ethos of lifelong learning, where it's never too late to learn something new. I mean, we have this community of 3,000 graduates, 25,000. Did you say 25,000?
25,000 nanodegree graduates.
Nanodegree graduates, 3,000 IP&D graduates, but they're all there to support you. And we've talked to people of just various ages, different backgrounds, from different regions, different income brackets, et cetera. I mean, we're all able to kind of encourage each other and find a way.
Yeah.
Let's see. This has come up in a few ways on Facebook too, but someone asked this in advance. What advantages do a program like these nanodegree programs or intro to programming in general have over that traditional 4-year university education?
Yeah, that's a good question. So traditional education is great, but the advantage that online learning and the online edtech space is that you can access a huge range of community, right? Just like worldwide, so many different people that have great perspectives to add to the learning process. And so what you get is this online education that's really taken in feedback from so many different perspectives and have been iterating on it. So like all of our programs, we're constantly updating the content, making things more accessible and easier to learn, identifying those like knowledge gaps and able to change that really quickly. In traditional education, changing a curriculum, from what I understand, can take many years. And so Udacity is able to move at a really quick pace to make those changes so that our programs are constantly impactful. And
as
I think that's
language trends change,
exactly, and especially like within the field of tech, like language changes all the time. Like Swift, for example, updates like every year. So we need to keep our content updated to match what's currently being used in the industry.
Cool. This, to summarize this question from Jessica on Facebook Live, she's basically asking, okay, after you've taken this intro, the beginner classes that we offer, and you're ready to move into career-ready programs, you have the nanodegree program certification that you get after you graduate a program, but no experience in the field. How do you move through that? My instinct is that you have your projects to show, but maybe you have some insight.
Yeah, so it's a really tough transition, I would say. But luckily for our career-ready nanodegree programs, we do have an amazing careers team. And so actually there's a ton of additional career resources to help bridge that gap.
Okay.
So that's not available within Introduction to Programming because it's not career-ready. But for some of our other programs, they'll have practice interviews, we'll do technical interview preparation, job search advice, and actually within the alumni community, there's they constantly post like job
That's true.
job options and stuff, and so there is definitely a lot of Udacity support to help. Like once you graduate, okay, there's like some limbo in there. Like okay, now what? How do I get the job? That's the hardest part, right? So our career services generally cover that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So let's get into the nitty-gritty. These are questions that people asked us in advance too, but also Coral just asked this on Facebook. I'm a wife and mother with a full-time job, and I dream of learning programming. How much time do I need to commit to graduate from the program?
Cool. Great question. So on average, our students take about 4.5 months or so to finish the Introduction to Programming nanodegree. However, I have seen students that have completed the program within a month. So it really depends on how many hours per week you intend to dedicate to the program. We estimate about a 10-hour per week commitment will get you to that average 4.5 months graduation. But it also, it's a variable, right? It depends on the learning speed and like how much time you can really focus on like the project building. Because I think the projects will definitely take the longer part.
The actual technical trials.
Yeah, so I would say just under 5 months is you could
Okay.
expect to be able to graduate if you're committed weekly throughout that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how much would that cost? How much does the full, 5-month program cost, or if there's any other tiers, I guess?
So right now we actually have 2 options for payment for IP&D students. The first option is that they can purchase 5 months of access for a discounted rate, so it's $399 US. Or they can purchase a monthly subscription, and that's for $99 per month.
Okay.
So if you do the math, you save about $100 if you choose the 5-month upfront option. But if you're planning on going through the program really, really quickly, like fewer than 5 months, then taking the monthly subscription option would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Would you say, in your experience, this was a question that came in ahead of this live stream, but maybe this might be hard to answer. What personality traits do programmers usually have? Or are there such a thing? Is there such a thing as a programmer with an innate ability? Or this is something, can this be learned?
Well, yes, it can be learned. I'm a big believer in that. I mean, for me personally, like I went from having 0 programming experience to being a full stack developer within a couple months a few years ago.
Okay.
So I know it can be done. It can be done. I had a chemistry background. It was very different. Chemistry and art. Can you imagine?
Okay.
But I think some of the key...
Chemistry is art.
Yeah, chemistry is art. Some of the key personalities that I see succeeding through these programs are students that are genuinely curious. They genuinely want to learn how things work and why they work, and they ask those big questions like, okay, I see that this happened, but how did it happen? You know, what were the things that led up to it? So curiosity, I think, is a big one. And then just like some element of grit, like you're committed to, strength through struggle kind of mentality where it'll get hard and it'll get tricky, but you want to persevere because you know that other people have done it before you and that you can like push through the times where it gets a little bit tough to work through some of the concepts.
And we have some great on Udacity.com, we have some great student success stories too, where they just talk about like the determination that they had, where they're either working another full-time job completely unrelated to the tech space, where they came home, you know, put their baby to bed, and then started working on this too in their spare time.
Yeah.
Let's see, what other sort of questions do we have on Facebook Live? There have been some really great ones. Someone loves your programming experience. But the program, Intro to Programming Nano Degree, wouldn't have to be, you don't have to necessarily devote 2 hours a day to the program. It's just whenever you can really work on it, like 10 hours a week.
Exactly. Yeah, and I would say that it's a good idea to spend at least 2 days out of your week dedicated to learning. I feel like if you go too long without touching the material, you'll kind of lose some of that.
Yeah,
so you're kind of
absolutely.
going to like jump forward and then go back a little and jump forward and go back. And so having some type of constant reminder of the concepts that you've learned and constant practice is a really big help to like really solidifying those concepts. Yeah, so I would say like some type of regularity within that schedule is really useful.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I think we have just about time for one more question.
Okay.
And this is from someone probably very loosely interested in programming, but are there free courses that Udacity has that you would recommend they try before they start the Intro to Programming?
Sure. Yeah, we have tons of free courses. If you look at our course catalog online, and we can link to that later, we have our Introduction to HTML and CSS. We have JavaScript Basics. We have Introduction to Git and GitHub, which is a common tool that programmers will use to upload and share files. So there's tons of courses online that we offer for free. So if you just kind of want to get experience within the Udacity environment,
figuring out
that's
what
a great option.
online learning is all about.
So all of our free courses, there's videos and text and quiz content, but you won't see any projects. So that's a big differentiator, is that you won't actually be submitting any projects for review. And also you won't have all of the student support like a classroom mentor or the Slack community. So like it'll kind of be like a program light.
Okay.
But
And then you don't
still-
have that code review either
Exactly.
from the reviewers of projects.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. I think that's about all we have time for. Thank you, everyone from around the world who has watched. We will put a link. There's actually a link right now in the Facebook field where you can learn more about our Intro to Programming Nano Degree, led by Kelly here. But thanks for tuning in. We'll see you around.
Thank you.